Mr. President.
Senator from Hawaii.
Mr. President, thank you for your patience. I want to begin today by reiterating my sadness about the passing of our friend, Senator Dianne Feinstein. Senator Feinstein's death strikes at the heart of so many of us committed to public service as she was. A courageous trailblazer, she stood up to powerful interest groups on behalf of her constituents and the rest of us. She was a fierce legislator fighting to ban assault weapons, defend survivors of domestic violence, protect our nation, and much more. But she was also a thoughtful friend. Just last week, she wrote me a letter expressing her happiness that the banyan tree in Lahaina, badly burned by the wildfires, is starting to show signs of renewed life. She wrote, "I hope that the beloved tree continues to recover and serve as a source of hope and a symbol of resilience for the entire community," end quote. She wrote, "I too share her hope." It's now been 6 weeks since the fires tore through the town of Lahaina on Maui, as well as in several upcountry Maui communities. As the whole world has seen now, those fires were devastating, claiming nearly 100 lives and destroying close to 3,000 structures, most of them residences. Our hearts break for all those impacted by this tragedy. Within hours of those fires, though, the federal government was on the ground providing assistance and relief. In the weeks since, well over 1,000 federal personnel have traveled to Maui to aid in the recovery efforts, and more than $125 million in individual relief has been distributed. Additionally, President Biden requested $4 billion in disaster relief funding following the fires, on top of the $12 billion he had previously requested. As I said at the time, disaster relief has always had broad bipartisan support, and there is no reason the Maui disaster should be treated any differently. In fact, Speaker McCarthy agreed. When he visited Lahaina less than 4 weeks ago, he said, and I quote, "We want to get the resources to individuals that could rebuild their life. We've got to focus on the children for the schools, get them back into the education so they don't miss out," end quote. I couldn't agree more. This funding is essential to our ongoing recovery efforts. But now, Speaker McCarthy, in refusing to stand up to the most radical faction in his caucus, I call them the Chaos Caucus, is endangering these resources for Maui and other communities impacted by disasters across the country. And we just heard from our majority leader what is happening in New York City, even as we speak. So again, as we speak, the Senate is working to advance a bipartisan continuing resolution to keep government open, which includes $6 billion in disaster relief. While clearly not everything we need, it is a critical down payment that will allow the federal government to continue its important work on Maui and in other communities impacted by disasters across the country. It will allow FEMA, the SBA, and the other critical federal agencies to continue their disaster relief work as we work to pass a longer-term funding agreement. But if radical House Republicans shut down the government, that funding will be held up indefinitely. My colleague, Representative Jill Takuda of Hawaii, summed it up well just yesterday in her testimony before the House Energy and Commerce Committee. She said the people of Maui have gone through enough. The wheels of government must keep turning to provide the support and resources so they focus on recovery and rebuilding, end quote. By forcing a government shutdown, Speaker McCarthy will be abandoning the people of Maui, the very same people he vowed to help just weeks ago when he visited Maui. We are less than 48 hours from Republicans shutting down our government, and they have yet to even put forward a funding bill that they can pass. It's unconscionable. While these remarks are focused on the impact of a shutdown on disaster aid, make no mistake, a Republican government shutdown will have negative consequences for millions of Americans, not just in disaster relief, but on every aspect of their lives all across our country. This is not a game. We all want to know what it's going to take for House Republicans to grow up and realize that the chaos they are sowing is going to have real impacts on real people's lives all across the country. Meanwhile, the Hawaii delegation, as well as actually the bipartisan Senate, will continue doing everything we can to keep government open by passing the continuing resolution that we have on deck in the Senate and secure the funding for our communities